Welcome to our Playwell podcast. My name is Sherry Morgan and I'm the Director of Projects at Play Scotland, the national organisation for play. Today our play pedagogy lead, Fiona Kirkland, speaks to Margaret Fordyce and Kerry Nicholson, who are teachers at Baltasound Junior High School, Britain's most northerly school. As a Play Pedagogy Award Pilot school, they are exploring ways to embed play into learning, sharing their journey and insights into how play enriches children's experiences across the primary years. I hope you enjoy their conversation.
So welcome to another episode of the Playwell podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Margaret Fordyce and Kerry Nicholson from Baltasound Junior High in Shetland. So first question, can you tell me a little bit about Baltasound and how your play journey started for you?
So play pedagogy journey really started around about 2020 as we were transitioning back into school after COVID. The staff team had a really strong sense that something was going to have to change, that things were not and could not just return back to normal how they were before. And the experience prompted us to kind of reflect really deeply on our practice. And we realised that they wanted things to change, but that had to be realistic and it had to be manageable and it had to be small steps so that it wasn't just like for everybody. So at the same time, the expansion was happening within early years and the senior management team were able to see that the principles that were happening in early years of play-based learning could possibly be extended beyond nursery and into the wider school. For me, I actually joined school in 2020 and I had worked for many years down in England as mainly reception year 1, year 2, which is P1, P2, P3. And at that point, play was a massive focus in schools in England. So I had a lot of experience coming into school and I was very keen to develop play-based learning within the lower primary class I had gone into.
For me, as the kind of upper primary teacher, teaching primary, I think at the time was 5, 6, 7, a real light bulb moment came actually during the Global School Play Day, and we had the whole primary early years kind of mixing and playing with each other all through the primary department. And we noticed where older pupils instinctively went straight to the nursery early years department and spent the majority of the day in the role play area, dressing up, going through the whole primary department, showing everybody what they were doing. And that moment really highlighted the power of play and reinforced it wasn't something that they grow out of, like they need it in primary 6, 7. So I think that was a real kind of turning point for me to try and include this into my up the school. So
you've got quite a wide variety. You're quite a unique school, obviously being the most northern school in the UK, which is fantastic. But you've got quite a unique setup up at Baltasound, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We have, from early years, we have some 2-year-olds. And obviously we have our early years nursery setting. And then we have got 3 primary classes at the moment. And then we also have a secondary department. So we're offering from 2 years up to 16 years and beyond. We have a couple of young people, that we've supported through to beyond 16. So yeah, we are in a very unique position.
I love the fact that when I've been working with you through the Play Pedagogy Award, it's been really brilliant because you talk about putting a bit more play into the high school as well, which is fantastic. It's not just, you're definitely not seeing play as just something that's done in primary 1 or in the lower school. I think the work that you've been doing and that I see through the award has been phenomenal, really. And we all are desperate to come up and see you and see you in practice. I think I'll probably need to hire a boat because everybody's always like, have you seen what Baltasound are doing? It's always wonderful to see that. So thinking back to the really early days, really what were the sort of first shifts that made you think as a team to think about embedded and play in the school then? What did you sort of see? Obviously, you touched on what sort of post-COVID. What would you sort of think, was the sort of, well, or even just your early successes? How did you start it?
Our earliest changes was around the mindset, really, and time. And we really made a conscious decision to dedicate more time to play and actively promote the value really seriously once we had signed up for the Play Pedagogy Award. And once we realised that it wasn't individuals at CPD, which initially I thought it was going to be, but it was a whole school shift in mindset. And so that was when we really started to think, right, we've got to stop dabbling with this and become a bit more serious about it. It was really about helping both our staff and our families to see that play is meaningful learning, and it's not just free time or something that early finishers got to do.
Yeah, it's not that reward, is it? It's actually a right now in Scotland.
So one of the first things I did was I got rid of all the tables and chairs. So I now just have a teacher table, and then I have really open, flexible spaces, and I have resources there that the parents have got access to all the time for them to do whatever they want to do at that particular time. We then started adapting further up the school. Yeah. And so a middle primary teacher and Kerry then started adapting their environments as well, and just making sure that the spaces were inviting and kind of purposeful and responsive to the children. And probably the last 18 months or so, isn't it? The Shetland Island Council have really had a play approach for all the schools in Shetland. And so they made funding available for support workers for play. So it's an actual job title. And we're really lucky to have Louise. She has 7.5 hours a week, which that is just shared between the 3 primary classes, but it is complete given over to play. So sometimes for you, so it allows us a bit of time to free up that we can maybe focus on other things, and knowing that Louise is facilitating the play.
Yeah, just even being able to have that time to observe, because sometimes the pupils want to do different things. So it's having that, right, Louise, can you take this group and do, one day she did like robot coding on the great big giant snakes and ladders board, when I had the other ones to do microbits. Okay, it's just little things like that you can focus on, and being able to observe them through their play helped us get a better understanding of their interests, their strengths, their needs, where to move it forwards to next, I guess.
And having that time to observe, isn't it? Yeah. So I like for my class, I have a dedicated 30 to 40 minutes every single morning. They are in play and the adults are in there with them, so that we're able to observe. We can see who's joining in, who's leading play, who's taking a bit step back, who needs to actually have an adult there to help them facilitate play, and taking that play serious.
I think it comes across, it really does. Your children, every time I see anything that you do, your children are always seem so happy and, so confident as well. That's one of the things that always comes across really strongly, from Baltasound. So how did your children respond? You said that you'd taken out all the tables and chairs. How did they respond to that originally?
I think from my class, the initial way doing it was we were just coming back from COVID. So some of these children had not been in school for a long time, obviously. And so having that time to just reconnect with each other was really, really exciting for them. We had I didn't take out all the tables and chairs. I had my teaching table. I had little groups coming in and whatever. So, I think they reacted really well to the fact that they had a bigger space to be able to play, and that they had longer times to be able to play and really engage in their play without, we said before, it's something that you can do if you finish your work quickly, or something that we do at a set time of the week. So I think they seem to be more relaxed and less rushed. But I think Kerry's probably seen the biggest impact.
Yeah, so I had children that didn't really play. Or it was when it came to like break times and lunch times, if you observed them, then it was just football. And if they didn't have football, if it was a wet play, then they were completely lost. So we have kind of got a fair amount of data and tracked it. And you can see the biggest impact in some of the older children, in fairness. As Margaret said, they're more relaxed, they're less rushed, they're clear understanding that play is valued and not something that's just a reward or to fill time. So removing some of the academic pressure had a really positive effect on well-being. We saw that some of the attendance rates and improvements in behaviour as well. Also gave us a valuable insight into Bairns' life experiences. So one of the role plays that Bairns wanted was an airport. And you go, how are you going to create an airport? But I'm really lucky in the space that I have. So we created it, but it was seeing how some of them were confident and engaged in it straight away. They'd been to airports, they knew what was happening, the language that they were using, and passing this on to children that has never left Shetland, that's never been in an airport. And so kind of everyone benefited from that kind of play-based approach. And I think maybe some talk, maybe further up the school, maybe would have benefited more if we had that approach kind of years ago.
Yeah. I always loved the one you told me about whenever you had the hairdressers. Can you tell us a wee bit about that? Because I thought that was fantastic. I tell people about it often, about this play area.
We do start, don't we, at the beginning each term. So there's really pupil voices in here. We start at the beginning of the year. I in my floor book with a big map out, what do you want to do this year? What do you want to learn about? And we do that. And what kind of things would you like here? And they'll come out with all sorts of stuff. And some things we can go, yeah, no problem, we can do that. And other things we have to think, how on earth are we going to do this? Like Kerry said, we wanted to make a role play, didn't we, more realistic in real life. So Kerry, you take it from there because this was your baby.
So a lot of the time it was kind of like the home corner and things, and you could see some of the parents, they were speaking about, I want to be a hairdresser when I grow up, I want to be a teacher and things like this. So it was how we could take that into their play so that they could see this. As Margaret said, at the start of the term, I always asked the parents, what do you want? I always did that academically with the topics, and then so it was just an extra thing. It was like, right, play your area. How do you want it to look? So they design it, they'll make a list of possible things they want in their area. I collate it, and then whatever's got the kind of highest ranking usually comes first. So hairdresser was a big thing. And we discussed this, well, how could we do this? Because obviously in school you are lacking resources with certain things. So what we did was the pupils emailed businesses, hairdressers and beauticians in Shetland to see if they had anything, old equipment and things that they would be willing to donate. I'm lucky in that my sister is a hairdresser and had a lot of things for beauty and hair. So we did get quite a lot of companies coming back to them. And I just did a bit of a recce around and collected it all. And we had a fantastic setup thanks to the businesses kind of donating. So I think that like the next thing was they were going to speak to building companies and different things they could then
vets. So vet practices. And my daughter-in-law is a vet nurse, and I tapped into her ideas as well. And we got all sorts of stuff, didn't we?
Yeah,
and some of it can evolve, and so we can use bits for some areas that fit in with other role play areas. And we share them. And at the minute, my class has got an airport, but my airport looks a little bit different for Kerry's airport because there are things in the box that are just not quite appropriate for my children at the minute. And so, but it's very different. And again, it's lovely. And it was lovely the other day when a member of staff came in and was going for somebody to London. And one of the bairns said to him, "That'll be £60, please." And he went, "What for?" And he went, "Your luggage is too heavy. It's excess baggage." And he actually used the words excess baggage. And this is a 6-year-old.
It can be all life, isn't it?
It's like, yeah. So yeah, and I think like Kerry's role play areas are just, Ashley and I have said this to you before, they are incredible. And yes, she has got the space to do it, but we don't want that, hearing that, folk maybe sitting listening to this saying, well, we haven't just got the space, we can't do this. Because I really had to think about how I could get my airport in without taking away my home corner, and I didn't have space in my class. So we really had to get creative with the space there. And so I think we would say one of the biggest tips we'd say is don't focus on what you think you can't do. Focus on what you can do, and it takes time to do this.
If anything, get the bairns involved.
Yeah.
We started, when I first kind of started with the role play, then the bairns say, "Oh, Miss Nicholson, can you set it up? Like, we can't really imagine how to do it," which then makes me go, "Oh, I have no idea how I'm going to get a class, like a Harry Potter Hogwarts in here." So I'll maybe initially set it up, but as soon as they get going, like, "Oh, well, this would be better here," and I'm like, "That's fine. You change it how you want. You want the initial setup." But this last little while, I have given them like, "Right, here's the box. You change it. You move it. This is your area." And they have now that they've got kind of the first couple of terms under their belts where I've helped facilitate things, they are now taking full charge. So we currently have a shop just now, and it had, because I kind of keep boxes that things I got at Christmas, and maybe are like old phones, things like that. So, and they came like, "Oh, but this is like a really good thing, so it needs a security tag." Something that I maybe wouldn't have thought of. And I was like, "Well, how are you going to do that now?" It's like, "Oh, well, we'll need string or something." So I was like, "Well, there's the box full of wool." So they went and got that, and then they got little shapes and they tied it in. So it's things that I wouldn't have, like a click and collect area. They made a little gum stand because there's always one at the till. So it's just little things that they put in. You just go stand back and think, I couldn't have made it this good.
But when you do first make it and you watch them coming through, and I think your cinema one was the one, because I actually was standing and speaking to Kerry on purpose because I wanted to see their faces, and they were actually going to have so we'd had the play cinema, and then Kerry turned it into the cinema for their end of term movie morning. So the cinema shop that they had played in with toy sweeties and things suddenly became their popcorn stand, and they had the seats out to watch the movie. And then that very quickly got changed into a karaoke thing. But watching their faces coming through and that, it's just incredible, So they're getting that wow factor, but then they're taking ownership of it and changing it around. And we are there simply as facilitators.
That is wonderful, though. And again, it's that sort of thing where you're thinking about the sort of that provocation, when you're saying they don't know where to start. That really is play pedagogy, isn't it? The fact that you're actually using your skills, your knowledge to say, well, this could be a starting point. You're using what you know about the world to actually help them to learn about the world around them, which is fantastic. And it's lovely to see that ownership. Because I love, if anybody can follow you on Facebook, it is wonderful some of the things that you do on Facebook. You put an awful lot of stuff on about the children, about what you're doing, and it really warms my heart every time I see what you're doing. It's fantastic.
I think as well we've got an incredible staff. Like, that's a team event, effort. It's not me doing it or Kerry doing it or Teresa doing it, who's a middle primary teacher. All our staff are involved, and they'll come in and say, "Oh, I brought this and I thought you could have it for this." But they also join in play one of the parents commented on this, didn't they?
Yeah.
That what they like is when members of staff join in and they're silly. We like it when you're being silly. And so when we join in that playfulness and fun with them, they're then drawn us into their world. So we then become playmates, as it were. But at the same time, we're still able to observe and facilitate, but we're not interfering because they've invited us in to their world and they want us into the world. And I have to say, you do get quite a good hairdo and a bit of spa treatment when there is a hairdresser going around. I think we're all queuing up to get
Ashley has even been and gotten his hair done and dyed and and his beard sorted out and all sorts. Yeah,
I think that comes across though, the fact that you are a playful team as well. You know, it's that understanding of the play cycle, about when to step in, when to step back, you know, and not adulterating the play as well. And that's so important that, you know, as practitioners and educators, we understand that. So we're not, sometimes, you know, you would sort of step in and you think to yourself, you take over and you turn around and they've all gone, you know. That's happened to me many times. But again, it's just that wonderful understanding of your role as the adult in play, which always comes across so strongly with your team, I think.
I think it's lovely that, well, particularly for me, that things that I've maybe been teaching explicitly, you know, something that I have been having groups at, it's really lovely when you see them then taking that into their play and then actually, you know, doing a bit of writing or making something, and you think, gosh, they've really picked us up and they've taken it to the next level. So I think that's really nice as well.
Yeah, because we had a role play classroom. I kind of turned it to a school within a school. And then I came in one morning and the deputy head, Ashley, he's like, Kerry, have you seen what they've done? And I was like, no. And here was full learning intention success criteria on the board of the lesson that they did. And it just shows that how much they do pick up in your lessons that they then took forward. And that was kind of okay, I'm clearly doing something right here if they are doing it.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So just picking up on that actually, so how, you know, a lot of people say when they want to sort of start play pedagogy and they're a bit concerned about how to cover like the E's and O's and the benchmarks and like the learning intentions. How do you find that? Because a lot of people say, well, I can't do play because if I do play, I can't get the learning intentions that I need to do. I need to cover the curricular outcomes. How do you manage that then? Because that always seems to be a big barrier when I speak to schools that are interested in play, but don't know really where to start and are scared, basically.
And I do get that. We get that because it's something that it's visited us. I know what you've said, but I've got too much to do. But then when you actually sit down and you look at, for example, the hairdressers and the beauticians or whatever, they created their own diary. They created comments where you could actually leave a review in the forms. They were using money. They were the language that was being used, and you could see the ones that had experience about that.
And small talk.
The small talk, yeah, going to the hairdressers and being asked, well, have you got any plans for the weekend then? And you just think, oh, and that particular child's mother is a hairdresser. And so you think, oh, she's been listening then, you know, she knows exactly what to say. So that language, but also the bairns model onto the other bairns. When you actually sit and take that bit of play, there's an incredible amount of E's and O's and benchmarks being made there. And one of the things that I do, because I've got the little ones, the observations is very much part of my assessment. So when I'm building in my observations, I'm also looking at and linking it to my E's and O's, meta skills, next steps, all of that, so that we can take that forward. We're still doing traditional teaching. We haven't scrapped everything. I think that's really important. We still do phonics sessions. We still do SPAG. We still do literacy sessions. We do numerous certain things. How it looks at my class will look different in Kerry's class, but that's how it is because she's got the older children in the school. I have my teaching table and I bring out parents, and so I very much teach in smaller groups, and I think that benefits the parents as well because it's really targeted towards them. So we still do that, but we're also looking for opportunities where we can take the curriculum into play. And money, I think, is a really good example. You know, you do money as a set down, structured lesson. I always think that some get it, some don't get it, but put them in a situation where they've got to take money from clients, then they're using that skill in a much more functional way, practical way, and so the learning becomes really concreted there. Would you agree?
Yeah, because it can be difficult the further you go up. I think there's always more. You're like, how do you do it? And it's only been this last year where I have actually dedicated one whole period, at least a week, that is just, so we call it Cool Time, children's own opportunities to learn. I actually stole it from the Mossbank School and I went to see Brian Spence teaching. I really liked it because we call it Discovery Time in lower primary and middle primary. So we have Cool Time. So there'll maybe like 3 mornings a week where that's kind of their soft start. They'll go for Cool Time. And then at least one period where play worker is. But it's also how you can get kind of playful learning within maths and literacy. Spelling is a good way. We've had a couple of schools come up and visit us within Shetland, and I've shown them different ways that I try and take play in through literacy and numeracy. And even just little ways of doing like brain breaks, just getting them thinking or playful, just to try to ease them in a little bit, also helps.
How do you find then, because obviously you're in the upper school, Kerry, and I know from experience, Margaret, that parents are quite happy if the children are playing in primary 1. However, as we get further up the school, the pressure's on, Kerry, isn't it? How do your parents feel about play in the upper school? You know, again, it's that whole thing about, oh my goodness, they're playing in primary 7, are they not getting ready for high school? Like, you know, how do you balance that with parents' concerns? And how did you bring your parents on board as well?
We've never really had any issues, I don't think.
We've had a few comments made along the line like, oh, they do nothing but play in that school these days and things like that. But the majority of our parents are on board.
Yeah.
I would say I really would stick my neck out here and say 90+% parents are on board. And I think it is about bringing them into school.
Yeah, so we have Bring Your Parents School Days in primary 1, primary 4, primary 7. We've actually done secondary 4 as well for the last 2 years.
2 years.
So they're actually been in and seeing them play. So I will give them Cool Time with the parents so they can see the kind of value of it, I guess. We also have open evenings where the parents come in and see the areas, have a chance to sit and play. At one point we had a boat in my area and we had parents fishing, getting the oilskins on. So it just kind of gives you them the kind of idea on how they play, what they're learning through it, the language that's coming out of it. And we have open, games night where, again, getting parents in through the door just to sit and play games with their parents. So we are really looking that the parents are really involved in our school, as is the wider community.
Yeah.
We've had
squads.
So it's coming up to Uphill time here in Shetland. And we always get the Uphill squads coming to visit the school. And some of the Vikings have stayed and played, been in tents, and so yeah, it's just quite nice.
I think last year was the year that really, really stood out for me because, you know, we had these, and the men look different in Shetland at this time of the year because they've all got beards now. And the more closer it gets to it, they're longer and longer. And you have to look twice at them and think, oh, what is you? Sort of thing. So these great big chaps coming in full Viking regalia, and it seems to make them look bigger compared to some of my really tiny little ones. And they built a galley in my classroom and put the Jarl into the boat, and they were just playing alongside them, and the comments that were coming for them and the community members that were in with them was really, really good. I think that was a time where Ashley and I just stood back and looked at each other and smiled and went, this was a good idea. So we had that coming in, and for the work that we've done with you, Fiona, we had a designated play open evening where the parents and pupils could play together, but we also had information there about play, and the staff were there, so it gave them the opportunity to be able to speak to staff and maybe get that bit of reassurance about it. And I think something I have just remembered, remember we did for one of the open nights, they put up post-it notes for parents to make comments on. And one of the biggest things that came out of that was how much they enjoyed hearing about the experiences the parents were having and playing. The children were coming home and they were enthusiastic and they were excited, and they were actually telling them what they'd done at school rather than saying, oh, nothing. And that was one of the big things that came out of that. So parents are really on board.
And I think because our social media, our Facebook page, we're pretty good at kind of trying to put in what they're learning through it so that they can see, oh yeah, they're not just playing, that's the learning. And I think that's probably the biggest thing as well to get them on board, is actually they're not just playing.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
So it's actually teaching your parents as well really what play is. Because probably we all did it whenever we were young, and some of us still do play. We never get told to play. You've got Ashley's a Viking and he's part-time. So, and I actually love the fact that it was so good because you wrote a blog for us last year about the Viking visits, which if anybody's interested, go and have a look at the Play Scotland website, because it's fantastic, the blog, and it really gives you the idea, because you were so kind and had taken loads of pictures as well. And even though I wasn't actually there, I felt as if I was there because you explained it so well. So I would definitely, for anybody listening, go to the Play Scotland website and have a look for the blog. It's absolutely tremendous. Really, your families and your wider community are really, really on board then. So you mentioned about the Play Pedagogy Award. What's been helpful about that, do you think then? I think you were actually the very first school that signed up for the Play Pedagogy Award. Long time ago now.
I think initially what led us to get involved was just about, it was for me. I thought it was going to get a CPD for me. Oh, what will I do this year? Oh, I'll do this. This is sorted out. And then it was still in infancy for you guys, wasn't it? And you were still in the process. And you kept sending out emails saying this is still evolving, this is evolving. And so then it became that we realised it was something for the whole school. There was a cost implication for us, which at first I thought was going to be a barrier, but we did fundraising to raise the money. We having had conversations with Ashley and then with our head teacher Paul, became aware that there were ways around it. And one of the things that we did was we did a teas and coffees for an event, and we raised the money to do that. So that was kind of how we started along. But I think being part of the group and being with other schools, because each of the schools in that pilot group, we've all got a uniqueness to us. We've all bringing something different to the table, and we've kind of through professional conversation and dialogue supported and helped each other through there. And I think because sometimes when we're up here, we are remote, and you can sometimes feel isolated, and you can sometimes be doing things and you might say, oh, am I doing this? Is this right? Should I be doing? And you question yourself. So having that opportunity within the play pedagogy work kind of validated what we were doing, but also gave us advice and strategies and help to be able to then take it a step forward. So, the data that we do now, I'm not sure that we would have been doing some sort of data, but I'm not sure that we would be doing and get the readings and the results and the insights into where we want to go next if that hadn't been through the work that we had done with the Play Pedagogy Award. And so, it's something, if somebody's starting out on their journey, if they're just about to start out, start small, focus on what you have, not what you don't have. Work with resources you've already got, build from there. Make use of your local community. It is massive for us. Our outdoor area has only just recently got the fancy building equipment, and our children do play on it, but equally our loose parts are made up of tyres, muscle floats, nets, big bows, all stuff like that, when we talk about it in our meetings, and the schools go, wow. But then sometimes you could look back and say that they've got this big fancy outdoor area, which we go, wow. So you really have to think about what's best and how it's going to fit into your school. And making use of that local community. People are incredibly generous. I think that's true of anywhere. Any community, I think, would be generous if they know it's to benefit their school. But we are lucky. We have got an incredibly generous community. And so, we're able to have real life experiences within our role play, which we've said before. And the other thing is that play needs time to develop. It can't be rushed into 10 minutes. Sometimes you have to be a little bit brave if there's something happening and they're deep in this meaningful play and you're thinking, I need to get my phonics done, just to be able to move that, be a bit flexible so that you don't interrupt that play and break up what is an incredible learning experience for the children.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what's next for Baltasound? I know you're at the stage now where you're actually going to be our first of the new. Obviously, we had a couple of play pedagogy schools at the very, very start, but of the new version of the play pedagogy, you're the first school to get to the presentation stage, which is really, really exciting.
I think we're very excited about that, and we're really proud as a staff of where we are. We're the most northerly school in Britain. We're this tiny little school, and this is a massive achievement for us, and we are going to be loud and proud about it.
I think that was the thing as well about the thinking a lot of the time behind the award, because and I've worked for different local authorities, and there's always sort of showcase schools that get all the attention and things, and sometimes we forget that there's fantastic practice going on in tiny little schools, not necessarily in the Central Belt or anywhere else. And we're really lucky, to have, we're in 19 different local authorities now. It really has made this such a wonderful experience for me as well, to see the progression. And whenever you're sending, sort of videos and your children and the happiness, and, you're talking about like your increase in attainment, the fact that actually your children want to come to school. When we talk about attainment, that we'll never attain unless we actually get children to come into the school. And I think that's such an important thing to make sure that comes across.
And I think like for us, it's more play, and making that is the absolute norm. And our aim is to fully embed play pedagogy so it comes across as an expectation across primary. We're very lucky we've got a stable staff. I've had for a few years. It may not be like that in the future, so it's up to us to make sure that this is not just something that we've achieved the award and then we sit on the back burner and go, well, that's it. Tick, we've done that. because then we want to make sure we've seen how brilliant it is. And so we want to make this just an expectation and striving just to get the right balance about this. And then, of course, we also want to keep encouraging our secondary colleagues to recognise that they've actually got more play and they are using play more than they actually realise. So we're kind of moving forward. We're committed to continuing our journey, not becoming complacent about it, and keeping everything fun and exciting and meaningful. And it's good that we're actually being asked to support more schools in Shetland. I think we're really, really proud of that as well. It's not the easiest school sometimes to get to. It's an effort, but the fact that these schools are making that effort.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Don't you worry, you're not getting away from me anytime soon. You will be up there with our skills, our play pedagogy skills, sharing that great practice. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite app or follow us on social media. And if you'd like to know more about Play Scotland, please visit our website, playscotland.org.